I call the December 20th, 2021 Ludington City Council meeting to order. Welcome and thank you for your attendance. Before we proceed, please check your electronic devices and ensure they are silenced. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Terzano,
Present.
Counselor May. Here. Counselor Winchesky,
Here.
Counselor Johnson, Counselor Stibbits,
Here.
Counselor Kane,
Present.
Counselor Bolger.
Here.
6 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. In lieu of invocation, please join me in 20 seconds of silence and self-reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll open the floor for public comment, and I request anyone wishing to address council, please step to the lectern and proceed after stating your name and address. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes. Please speak directly into the microphone and address all comments to this chair. There'll be another public comment opportunity following communication from city's officials. The floor is open.
Annette Quillen, 606 East Court. Infrastructure is a word's been thrown around quite a bit lately. And I often wondered why Ludington, when they were doing new roads, can't put wires and cables underground. And I was told it was because the water table was too high. But I worked at the health department 78, 80, 79, 80, and that's when Crosswinds was being built. And I distinctly remember the talk about running all the utilities through cable and everything through the Pierre Marquette Lake. And then there's Line 5 that runs under the Straits of Mackinac. So I really question whether we can't try running some of our cables underground. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council?
Tom Rada, Dowland Street. In the seasonal spirit of giving, I will offer you some totally free critiques. First, when you handle a FOIA appeal, especially when the appellant tells you that several items have been redacted unlawfully, you should expect your FOIA coordinator to provide you with a comprehensive rationale for the specific redactions in question, not prepare a law argument for such redactions in general. Those are useless. Had you been provided the records in question in the last appeal, the smart ones among you would have wondered why so many fields never associated with the FOIA's privacy exemption were redacted in the first response. It wasn't just that some information had already been publicly released, it was the legal inapplicability of the claimed exemption. The next time you fail to do your duty to actually look at the records before making a decision, I will take it to the court and have them do your job for you. Second, the city's contracted engineers appear to be conducting non-transparent bidding processes, which have led to a single bid to do the work at Loomis Street. Minimally, they needed to tell the city and thereby the public fully of the process they used to get bids and the period those bids were open. It appears from the documents available that they had a closed process, one that may lead to a diluted selection of potential bidders and larger costs to the city due to the cronyism and lack of free market competition. Third, I've been attending Ludington School Board meetings religiously since August, and not once has a district voted to dispose of their playground equipment by selling it to the city for $1. Yet, interim superintendent Peg Mathis has already signed the agreement in your packets, signifying that she has gotten such approval by the board when she hasn't officially in accordance with her policies. Not surprisingly, the district sold Foster School for less than 10% of its value without following those policies earlier. Rulers need to follow rules in a republic. Fourth, once again, Safety Decals has profited from being used by the Community Development Director to make signs purchased by the city. The CDD had ample opportunity at public meetings to alert the DDA and the public as to why this selection of her husband to be a contractor was to the city's advantage. But as she has dozens of times in the past, she has failed to do so, and nepotism is tacitly approved by the council every time these charges come through the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council? I see none. I'll close floor for public comment and move on to the consent of tonight's agenda, which I would like to amend very quickly. Here we have a couple of honorees that are to receive recognition at the very bottom of the agenda, and I would like council approval to move those recognition awards and resolutions forward to the beginning of the meeting after the consent.
So moved.
Objection, council?
No.
Thank you. Then tonight's consent agenda consists of the approval of council minutes of the December 6, 2021 regular meeting, the approval of bill payment for the period commencing December 6, 2021, and the adoption of this agenda as amended. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll support.
Motion by Counselor Tizano, seconded by Counselor Stibbits to approve the consent agenda as amended. Any questions or additions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. It's with the gratitude and appreciation of the entire population of the city of Ludington that I'm humbled and honored to read resolutions of recognition for two long-serving Ludington Fire Department officers, Lieutenant Fred Hackert and Assistant Fire Chief Ron Jabraki, for their 50 years of service to the department and to the city. And gentlemen, if you'll join me right over here. Fred, would you? Ladies and gentlemen, the resolution recognizing Lieutenant Fred Hackert for 50 years of service on the Ludington Fire Department, 50 years plus. Whereas Fred Hackert was hired as a firefighter on May 6, 1971, later promoted to lieutenant. And whereas the city of Ludington has a long history of volunteerism, which is exemplified, thank you, which is exemplified by volunteer service to the community by members of the Ludington Fire Department. And whereas members of the Ludington Fire Department volunteer their time to provide for the safety of our community, and whereas this volunteer time is required at all times of the day and night, 24 hours, 7 days a week, it is important to recognize the day-to-day sacrifices and heroism of the Ludington firefighters. And whereas during the past 50-plus years, Fred Hackert has seen many changes within the fire department, including converting the old Larson storage building into a fire department and the construction of a new fire hall in 2019. During this time, the Ludington Fire Department has become one of 3 departments, along with Pere Marquette and Hamlin Townships, to form the Western District Fire Authority and mutual aid amongst these departments. And whereas Fred Hackert has experienced a lot of changes to operations in the fire department as a result of new state requirements for apparatus, PPE, and training. And whereas Fred Hackert was involved with many of the fire department activities, including the fish boils, 4th of July fundraisers, and firework displays, Friday Night Lives, fire prevention activities, etc. And whereas Fred's devotion and commitment to the Ludington Fire Department has a valuable impact on the department and community, now therefore let it be resolved that I, Mayor Steve Miller, on behalf of the Ludington City Council, hereby recognize Fred Hacker for his dedicated service and commends his outstanding public service and sincerely appreciates his contribution and enrichment to our community. Dated the 20th day of December, 2021, signed by me, Steve Miller, Mayor of Livingston. Some of this may sound familiar. The name has been changed. This is a resolution recognizing Assistant Fire Chief Ron Jabrocki for 50-plus years of service on the Ludington Fire Department. Whereas Ron Jabrocki was hired as a firefighter on May 7, 1971, promoted to lieutenant, and later to Assistant Fire Chief in August of 1994. And whereas the city of Ludington has a long history of volunteerism, which is exemplified by the volunteer service of the members of the Ludington Fire Department who provide safety to our community. And whereas this volunteer time is required at all times of the day and night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it is important to recognize the day-to-day sacrifices and heroism of the Ludington Fire Department. Whereas during the past 50-plus years, Ron Jabrocki has seen many changes within the fire department, including converting the old Larson storage building into a fire department and the construction of a new fire hall in 2019. During this time, Ludington Fire Department has become one of 3 departments along Pier Marquette and Hamlin Townships to form the Western District Fire Authority and mutual aid agreements amongst these departments. And whereas Ron Jabrocki has experienced a lot of changes to operations of the fire department as a result of new state requirements for apparatus, PPE, and firefighter training. Whereas Ron Jabrocki was part of the fire department's first dive team and also furthered his training to become extraction, Jaws of Life, certified in extraction, and also EMS, emergency medical services. Whereas Ron Jabrocki was involved with many of the fire department activities, including the Fish Boil, 4th of July fundraisers, firework displays, Friday Night Lives, fire prevention activities, etc. And whereas Ron Jabrocki's devotion and commitment to the fire department has had a valuable impact on that department and the community. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Steve Miller, Mayor of the City of Ludington, on behalf of the Ludington City Council, hereby recognize Ron Jabrocki for his dedicated service and commends his outstanding public service and sincerely appreciates his contribution and enrichment to the city. Dated this 20th day of December 2021, signed by me, Steve Miller, Mayor of the City of Ludington. We have some lovely parting gifts for these guys. Mind if I'll open this? For both of you, we have for your mantelpiece. If you're going in your bed, you may not need a clock anymore. A clock with a stamp of the City of Ludington on it. For your precious space. Fred, this one is yours. I'll wrap it back up for you. Ron, this is yours. Again, gentlemen, thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve the city of Ludington as a firefighter for the last 50 years. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Absolutely.
I have a little fun. Been here for 50 years fighting these fires in the city and protecting our community. And it's been an honor to share that time all the other firefighters that have been there along with us all these years. And I thank you very much for all those guys that retired and so forth and still carried on the firefighters as a brotherhood. And thank you all.
Council, if there are no objections, I ask for unanimous consent to approve these resolutions of appreciation. Hearing no objection, these resolutions of appreciation are approved. Thank you, gentlemen. And again, Lieutenant Hackard and Assistant Fire Chief Jabraki, our indebtedness and most sincere expressions of gratitude for your commitment to the service of our city remain for all times. And I want to make sure that your families are thanked also. The celebration that for your retirement had an opportunity to speak in front of them, but we wish you and your families the best from here on in. They have supported you in your actions, in your dedication to the city for these 50 years. So a personal thanks to your families, if you would. All right. Now let's get back. Thank you, gentlemen. Next on the agenda, we have the committee and staff reports. We'll hear first from the Finance and Personnel Committee in the absence of Councilor Johnson. Councilor Winchesky, would you do the honors?
Yes. Tonight for Finance and Personnel, we have no report, but there are several action items. The first one is to adopt ordinance number 462-21, the treasurer's salary. The annual salary for the city treasurer commencing January 1st, 2022 shall be $54,600, and I so recommend.
Support.
Motion by Councilor Winchesky, seconded by Councilor Terzano to adopt ordinance 426-21, approving an annual salary of $54,600 for the city treasurer commencing January 1, 2022 as presented. Council, we have any questions or comments? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Winchesky,
Yes.
Counselor Kane,
Aye.
Counselor Bolger,
Yes.
Counselor Stibbits,
Yes.
Counselor Terzano,
Aye.
Counselor May.
Yes.
6 ayes, 1 absent.
This motion is carried. Thank you.
The next item on the list is the adoption of ordinance number 463-21, the clerk's salary. The annual salary for the city clerk commencing January 1st, 2022 shall be $71,212, and I so move.
I'll support.
Motion by Councilor Winchesky, seconded by Councilor Stibbits to adopt ordinance 463-21, approving an annual salary of $71,212 for city clerk commencing January 1, 2022 as presented. Council, we have any questions or comments? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Bolger,
Yes.
Counselor Terzano,
Aye.
Counselor Stibbits,
Yes.
Counselor May,
Yes.
Counselor Winchesky,
Yes.
Counselor Kane.
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 absent.
Thank you. This motion is carried.
Thank you.
The next item is to approve the contribution addendum for the MERS Healthcare Savings Plan, Division 301182. The City of Lunington adopted the MERS Healthcare Savings Plan for city employees in 2015. At that time, several divisions were established to allow employees to contribute an agreed-upon weekly amount to their division's plan. The MERS Healthcare Savings Plan is a tax-qualified government plan and trust under 401A of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, and all trust assets within this plan are exempt from taxation under Code Section 501A. Therefore, if any division would like to change their weekly contribution amount, all employees within that division must agree to make that change. All employees within Division 301182 have agreed to make a change from a weekly contribution rate of $25 to $50. And I so move to support this change.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Winchesky, seconded by Counselor Terzano to approve the contribution addendum for the Municipal Employees Retirement System Healthcare Savings Plan within Division 301182 as presented. Council, we have any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion's carried.
The next action item is a resolution to change the First Ward polling location. The City of Ludington's First Ward election polling place currently is located at Lakeview School, 502 West Haight Street. Due to the recent sale of this school building to a private individual and the upcoming demolition of this property, as well as the fact that there is no building in the First Ward that meets the requirements of Michigan Election Law Act 116 of 1954, MCL 168.162, designating a place to hold an election in the city, we are proposing that the First Ward polling location be moved to the Municipal Building Community Room, 400 South Harrison Street. The Election Commission, consisting of the City Attorney, City Assessor, and the City Clerk, met on Wednesday, December 15th, 2021, to review the request to move this polling place to a new location, and are recommending to City Council the adoption of the attached resolution to change the First Ward polling location from Lakeview School, 502 West Haight Street, to the City of Ludington Municipal Community Room, 400 South Harrison Street, Ludington, Michigan. And I so move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Winchesky, seconded by Counselor Terzano to adopt the resolution to change the First Ward polling location in the City of Ludington from Lakeview School at 502 West Haight Street to the City of Ludington Municipal Building Community Room located at 400 South Harrison Street as presented and is recommended by the City of Ludington Election Commission. Council, we have any questions or comments?
I do actually have a question. So that would make two different wards coming to the same location, but just in different areas. And then there would obviously be people there to direct the people to the First Ward downstairs, etc. And that's okay with everyone. Okay.
I have a procedural comment. I raised this in the Finance Committee, and I want to raise it in front of the full council. I recognize that in years past, resolutions like this, for some reason, have gone to the Finance Committee. But I would suggest procedurally, they should come directly to the full council. And there might be some discussions next year on redistricting, depending upon things like that. So what I would suggest to City Manager Foster is that these come up under your report, but you ask the city clerk, Clerk Luskin, to make the report and address it to the whole council.
I'm perfectly okay with that change. Yep. And as we discussed during finance, typically the reason for that was at least to get one committee's eyes on whatever issue as best we could, but understand completely, and we will definitely make that change accordingly.
Thanks, John.
Any other questions or comments? Again, briefly, this resolution is to change the polling place location in First Ward from Lakeview School to here at City Hall. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion's carried.
The next item we have is to look at approving a brownfield plan for 106 Laura Street. In the summer of 2021, the city was approached by the owners of 106 Laura Street with their interest in building out a new development on that site after their previous condominium development fell through during the Great Recession. After the discussion, it was determined that the site could be considered a brownfield property and thus eligible for cleanup reimbursement for certain activities and would apply under the Mason County Brownfield Authority. After discussion in the Finance Committee, we are recommending to not approve this brownfield plan. That's not the project that means just the brownfield plan that we currently have in front of us. We'd like to have some more work done on that. So we are recommending, and I'll make a motion, that we not approve this brownfield plan. Again, it's not the project, it's a brownfield plan that we feel we need more work on.
I'll second that.
Can I suggest that you make a motion to approve it and then say why we should deny it? Just to keep the positive in that always making a motion to approve something? So that we're not voting yes to say no.
Oh, sure.
So,
But I think we have a motion, you made a motion, and I think
Yes.
got a
Counselor
second.
Tarzano seconded it, so we
I
have to
withdraw
like.
my second.
Okay.
So I can, Ross, can I
Can I do
change
that?
the motion?
Can I withdraw my second?
You can withdraw your second, in terms of whether you want to have a motion.
A
It's not really a requirement that it be positive, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but just logically is that you deny something, you vote no to deny and yes to approve. Just for uniformity, that's all.
Sure, yeah, I mean, you can craft the motion as you see fit. If semantically that's how you want to do it, then there's nothing that prevents you from doing that.
So Counselor Kane, you'd feel better if I made the motion
To approve.
to approve
Yes.
the brownfield plan. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the brownfield plan,
And I will second that.
and then we can discuss
Yes.
that at the Finance Committee, we feel the brownfield plan that is proposed to us needs more work done on it. We'd like it to go back to the county, and City Manager Foster is going to explain that in more detail too.
So this is a very, I would call it frustrating in a sense of the word. The brownfield plan as approved and what is in your packet, approved by the Brownfield Authority, was approved with one pending piece or one contingency, which was that it was legal. There was a question regarding, because as a part of this brownfield plan, and as part of Mason County Brownfield Authority's policies, is the county will collect 50% of the value or the increment on the project if the project applicant does not go after the state education tax. In this case, they did not. And so they collect 50% of that increment for 10 years, and then, or I should say for 12 years. And then as a part of this, again, under Mason County Brownfield Authority policies, they do not pay for infrastructure. In this plan, they include 10 years of the other 50% of the city's increment to pay for infrastructure attached to this project that under current policies would not be paid for. After talking through with their legal counsel, the county board or the county administrator does not believe this method is legal. I believe Ross agrees with that circumstance as well. There's a line in the statute that essentially says you cannot reduce someone's liability, and by the city stepping forward to do 100%, the rest of the jurisdictions being at 50% is essentially that same situation. And so that's why I believe the recommendation of the committee is to not approve this. However, this goes back to a broader concern that I think members of the Brownfield Authority Board have towards the county policy on brownfields. It's truly an unwritten policy. It's nowhere to be found online. That they have very specific guidelines that go against what is allowed by state statute, that they make stricter than the statute. And in a circumstance like this, it deters development from occurring in a way that is arbitrary in nature. And so I would, if council does agree with saying no to this at this point in time, which would be my recommendation as well, I would ask that council give direction to me to allow me to work with the county administrator to try to change these policies. They should be looked at on an individual basis, because if there's a circumstance where infrastructure is needed on a project, or if there's a circumstance in Scottville where something isn't necessarily considered a brownfield by our definitions, but under the statute it would be, they should be eligible to apply. And currently, based on the unwritten policies or unwritten rules, they wouldn't be eligible to apply. And so I would ask for that guidance as well. But that is the circumstance, but I'm happy to answer questions. There's a lot of material in your packet in a lot of, brownfields are not the easiest thing to understand either.
So this doesn't, right now, if we don't approve this brownfield plan, the organization can still go back and help maybe fix the policies. And once the policies are approved to fit our needs maybe a little bit better, they can go back and apply for a brownfield.
Correct, yep.
That meets those standards.
Yes,
So they're not
yep.
necessarily like, we're not saying, no, you can't do this project.
Right.
But you just have to change your procedures.
Yeah, that's correct. And we had a phone call on Friday with the developers, or I should say representatives from the developers. And after they saw the feedback from the county's attorney or the consultant's attorney, they knew this was likely coming down the line. And so they were preparing for it
Okay.
to try to understand how best to move forward. And they were going to be consulting their clients as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a time constraint in this?
Yes and no. There's a 10-day notice period for the county board to take action. But before that, not really. And so they are planning or hopefully working towards an April start date. And so there's still time for adjustments to be made accordingly.
So who arbitrates these unwritten rules? Is it the county administrator?
So the way that it works, when we have a brownfield inquiry or a brownfield application, they first come to the administrator and myself to review. The administrator will point out specific policies that they are not in line with. I'll review it from a financial perspective as well. We'll give it back to them, and then they come back with another draft before it ever touches the Brownfield Authority Board's laps or hands. And so it's always, our first meeting is with myself and the administrator and the developers.
And you are in consultation with the county on this?
In a general sense, with most projects, yes. Yeah, and I would venture a guess that the administrator knows that I do not necessarily agree with the policies. It does hamstring not only the Brownfield Authority Board, but also the county board, who has ultimate jurisdiction over this process.
So if we deny this motion, what happens next?
The developer will go back either one of two things. Either the developer goes and meets with the county board, and I would meet with the administrator, and we ask to see about some flexibility with those policies and allow for essentially a case-by-case basis situation. And then they apply with their full ask, not with the 50%, but a full ask, and they go back through the process. No big deal if the policies are changed. If not, I guess three options. Second option would be they pull out anything that is not covered under the current policies, which would be the city specific, which is on page, where are we at here? 79. There's a specific amount. It is 400, nope. It's $298,800 were expenditures that are outside of the county's guidelines or policies that were part of that 50% the city was going to kick in. So they could just remove that and just push forward with the rest of the application. The third option is they say, we can't make it without having that 300,000 covered, or here's why we can't make it, and they stop for the time being. I hope that's not it. The consultants that we spoke with didn't indicate that would be part of this, but that's always an option. I can tell you that in the initial discussions with the finance committee, we talked about any other option to try to look at ways to help make this happen, and we just couldn't come up with any other option.
No.
So to
I
be-
would recommend that we deal with this on a going forward, a case-by-case basis, rather than just have no policies, unwritten policies in effect.
Why do I recommend that?
Yeah.
Because every vote that a board takes is looked at on its own. And so you can, the county board, if someone were to come forward and they were to have this giant application with all sorts of crazy asks in it, the county board could narrow that up and they could say, we're not going to approve that based on X, Y, and Z. Not a problem. But when you box in a development right off the bat, you could close off developments before the process even gets started. It allows for more negotiation One of the things as a part of the kind of discussion with this is I reached out to Susan Wenslick, who works for Fishbeck. She used to work for Eagle in their Brownfield division, to ask her, really, she's a good expert on some of these things. I asked her what other counties have for policies, and she said you might have one of the policies that our county has might exist in another county, but just one of them, not all of them. We hamstring developers too much. There's ways that you can box them in and really kind of put some restrictions on there so they don't go crazy. But from her perspective, Mason County just goes a little bit too far.
Yeah, to be clear, Councilor Kane, the almost $300,000 in expenditures that City Manager Foster mentioned are allowable under the State Brownfield Authority. For some particular reason, Mason County, without any written policy at all to help developers or anybody to work this process, they've made this unilateral decision that they're not going to include these types of activities. And it's nothing that at least the city manager, the attorney can find as anything that's written. It's just, to me, it's just an arbitrary decision on their part. So I would, as a jurisdiction, the largest jurisdiction in this county that utilizes the Brownfield Authority, I would strongly encourage and strongly support City Manager Foster having these discussions and trying to get the Mason County Brownfield Authority to change their unwritten policy.
And just to explain too, I thought Mitch explained it really well, and he said the Mason County Brownfield Authority will say okay to making an area green from brown, kind of polluted area, to green area. But this area needs new sewer, new water, sidewalks, and all that stuff is allowed under the state definition of brownfield. But our county does not allow that, doesn't allow that to go into the brownfield. So we're asking for some individual look at this situation to see if that can be included. So we just want to go back, want Mitch to go back and with our support, hopefully tonight, to be able to talk to the county and about that situation.
And if I could, one of the questions that the committee asked was how did this policy get created? I don't know. It definitely predates my time. I've had conversations with staff about when it went into existence, and they really couldn't speak to it. My guess is at some point in time there was a project that came through that caused some frustration, and they put some policies in place, or a couple of projects came into fruition and caused some frustration, and so they put policies in place accordingly. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think at times you have to reevaluate that to understand if it really is playing a benefit or a net benefit or a net negative at the point in time. So
I think you're being generous. If you're going to put policies in place, you put them in writing so that everybody can see them. So this is not a policy that's in place because there's nothing written.
Have we reached out to the two county commissioners representing the city?
Not in this circumstance in particular. If I don't believe if you were not on, or were you? I don't remember at the time, Councilor Kane, the Lofts on Row project. This is eerily similar to that circumstance. And we had some of these very same conversations, I believe, back then, Mr. Mayor. Go right ahead.
After this action, I will propose to council, I will try to encapsulate exactly what was just said so that it allows the city manager, with our approval,
Yes.
to pursue these policy changes.
Okay.
So before us, we have a motion to approve the brownfield plan for 106 Laura Street. We have any further discussion? And all those in favor of approving the brownfield plan for 106 Laura Street signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion is denied. Get out of your system, here we go. Council, without objection, I would
Good Lord.
like to direct the city manager to pursue brownfield policy changes with the county administrator and the possible change of direction via pursuit of other options. Without objection, you have direction.
Thank you.
Can I ask the city manager to report back the next council meeting and the council meeting after that, and any progress on,
In any future council meetings?
and any future?
I would be happy to. I have already spoken with the administrator today. He was questioning what the action would be this evening. Based on this result from legal counsel, I will be calling him tomorrow and setting up that meeting, hopefully either tomorrow to have the grander discussion or for just after the first of the year. So I will hopefully have some feedback for the council by that first meeting in January.
Councilor
Okay,
Winchesky?
yep. We have one more item for finance tonight, and that's to approve the city manager evaluation handbook. The laydown in front of you, we changed tonight in the council, in the committee meeting, under supervision and leadership section that you have in front of you. We changed these 4 criteria from evaluating the city manager's relationships with staff to relationships with us. For example, the first one says promotes the development and education of all members of council instead of staff, because we really don't see him with staff all the time, hardly at all. So we changed those to things that affect us, like his research he does for us during committee meetings, his professionalism during meetings, his respect, and everything else. So that was changed from what was in the handbook that you received a few days ago at the beginning of the week, last week. And everything else is pretty much the same. So I'll make a motion to accept the city manager evaluation handbook. Just a few mentions of a few things. Mayor Miller came up with the handbook. The explanation at the beginning is very solid. It explains a lot of the things that we're looking for, the process of evaluating our city manager, just not the last month of the year, but throughout the whole year, and keeping notes on good things and things that we're concerned about. So I think that turned out really, really well. And our last evaluation was rather weak. I think we all felt it was not real appropriate. This is much more solid. So I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Winchesky, seconded by Councilor Terzano to adopt the city manager evaluation handbook as amended. That will be your handout, page 14. Floor is open for any questions or comments.
I just want to make a quick comment. I was really nervous about the 3-point scale system, and then Mayor Miller was able to explain on page 13, I think, with the rating scale definitions. And for some reason, when I was looking at it, I kind of missed this in my research, that it's kind of like it's not all or nothing. It's a range of scores, and that makes me feel so much better. I just wanted to make that comment in case anyone else was feeling that same way.
Any further discussion?
This is a work in progress. As we use this throughout the year, and next year we can make changes as we see fit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I do have one comment. As it lays out in the book, and I think as we discussed when we did the evaluation, this is not an October or November exercise. This is a year-long exercise. And as City Manager Foster has indicated, numbers are okay. And I think the system that we have here is very good. But most people respond to verbal or written comment. So I just strongly encourage all of us, if you take advantage of city manager willingness to meet with us individually throughout the year, that it just not be about projects. If you have issues, keep this evaluation around, discuss those things with the city manager, keep notes as best as you can throughout the year.
There's no further discussion. We have a motion and a second to adopt the city manager evaluation handbook as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, council.
And that's all we have for tonight.
I can, very quickly, if anyone would like a tutorial, I didn't know if it was taking up city council time to go over just exactly what it says and the rationale behind it. I'd be glad to do that, or if you'd like to meet one-on-one, I'd be glad to do that also. If you have any questions about anything singularly, just get a hold of me. I'll be glad to, if I can, explain it to your satisfaction. Thank you, Councilor Winchesky. Moving on to public safety, public utilities, Councilor May.
Your Honor, I've got nothing to report. However, we've got 6 action items to address tonight, all resulting from our committee meeting of Thursday last. In your packet, you'll see the first matter concerns adopting a resolution establishing fees for a right-of-way application. DPW Director Stinkney came to the meeting last week and advised that on numerous occasions, he's been caught unawares of public utility companies, et cetera, doing work on our city streets, sidewalks, whatever, and he was not aware of it. And he just wished to inaugurate some kind of a tracking system where he could be more informed and up to speed on what was going on. So he provided us with a applicant form or an application form that isn't in the packet, but it's very simple, concise, 1 page, and we all were in approval of it. As a result, before you have the resolution requesting establishment of a $25 fee for one of these companies to apply for and be granted in order to do work in the city of Ludington. Therefore, I make a motion that we adopt this resolution.
Support. Motion by Councilor May, seconded by Councilor Bulger to adopt the resolution establishing fees for right-of-way permit applications as presented. Council, we have any questions?
Is there any thought to what happens if they need access to the right of way in an emergency situation? Can they go back and fill out the application afterwards?
That was not discussed by anyone or Mr. Stinkney. I assume it'd be a moot point and there really wouldn't be any need. This is mostly for his ability to track and be aware of and monitor what's going on.
It would be a moot point, so if it's emergency, they don't have to pay the fee or fill out the application?
Well, it would have, the action would be required and he would be advised in the same, you might say. So this is for a normal circumstance, it doesn't have any relation to do with whether it's permitted or not, or whether it's lawful or not. It's just for his own awareness of what's going on in the town. And if it had to happen, it had to happen. It's not going to stop. It's not going to be denied because they didn't apply.
Can I give an example,
Sure.
Counselor May? You guys know those white and orange poles on the corners? They're skinny, they're poles. They're about, 4 or 5 foot tall. A few years ago, some company put those poles in, and I had several people in my ward ask me, are they going to stay there? And I didn't have any say in that because it's in the city right away, but it's on their corners of their property. Well, we had no idea. Joe Stickney had no idea who put those in, what they were for. And he researched that and found out, I think it was DTE who put them in, but they put those in without any notification to the city or anything. So I think maybe this is kind of a follow through on, so that we understand who it is. And then if they destroy the property, the dirt and everything else, Joe knows who to call to have them replace it. Because we did fix a lot of those places that they came and dug up. So I think maybe that's kind of a result of what's happened here. But if you look around town, you'll see those. They're white and they have an orange cap on them. And that happened a few years ago. So I bet, Wally, this is a repercussion from that.
Do we know if these entities are going to be able to pay for this $25? They're public utilities.
It's not uncommon for municipalities to have permits like this in place.
Okay.
It serves multiple facets as Counselor may discuss. One is a tracking system for being able to keep track of who's doing work where. Another one that you typically do it with is that cleanup portion of this. But it also applies to curb cuts and driveways and the weird driveways that are kind of driveways, but they're also parking lot areas in front of people's houses that we have across the city. This would apply to anything that was work done in the right of way. So even private homeowners would have to pull this permit. They've already been doing it. This is just going to bring it all under one permit tracking system for us to be able to do it.
Council, have any other questions on this issue? This is a motion to adopt the resolution establishing fees for the right-of-way permit applications. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
All right, next up, I want to make a first presentation for ordinance number 467-21, the reorganization of the Department of Public Works Department to also include our former utility maintenance department. I'll read from a memo to the mayor and ourselves from Mr. Foster. With the departure of Daryl Plamondon from the Utilities Maintenance Department, there was a need to evaluate the structure of our organization. Upon discussion with multiple staff members, including Daryl, it was determined that bringing the Utilities Department under the purview of Public Works made logistical sense. Additionally, without the need to replace a supervisor, we are able to promote a crew leader and hire on a new employee to help fill out the department. This organization would have a review at the end of the year for effectiveness and efficiency in the roles it will take on, but should be set up for success. Then I'll read from the initial part of the ordinance. The City Council of the City of Ludington hereby finds and determines that a reorganization of the city's utilities department is necessary and that the city manager has proposed a new organizational structure for the department, and that such a reorganization will better serve the city's residents, property owners, and businesses, as well as the community as a whole, and that the city manager, as the chief administrative officer of the city, is and shall continue to be responsible for establishing the staffing roles and structure of said department as established in Chapter 10 of the city charter. Any questions?
Yes. If the city manager is basically runs the city, why does he need approval from the city council to make a personnel change or organizational change?
Within the city charter, there's a requirement that any reorganization of a department, creation of a new department, be established via ordinance by city council.
Okay.
Whether or not that's an item that could be reviewed by the charter commission would be up for discussion at a later date.
We'll move on then. The next topic is for the council to approve a purchase agreement between the City of Ludington and the Ludington School District regarding purchasing playground equipment from the soon-to-be departed Franklin Elementary School. Basically, the school district has agreed to sell us the playground equipment at Franklin for $1. And we do have plans and the money to move it and to reestablish it at various sites around the city, which are already being considered. I'll also note that this only concerns our contract with the school district regarding Franklin, and that they still own Franklin. Lakeview has since been privately purchased, and any kind of a similar agreement, which I believe is likely to happen between Mr. White, the new owner of the former Lakeview School, will happen in the future. And also our third elementary school, which also has playground equipment, Foster, the plans there are for that equipment to remain in place and a playground to continue to operate there. Just to ward off any questions. So you see the purchase agreement in front of you. I'll read from the beginning. This playground equipment purchase agreement is entered into as of the date of the last signature below by and between Ludington Area Schools, a Michigan General Power School District organized and operating under the revised school code, whose address is 809 East Tinkham Avenue, Ludington, Michigan, and the City of Ludington, a Michigan Home Rule City organized and operating under the Home Rule City Act, whose address is 400 South Harrison Street, Ludington, Michigan, for the purchase and use of playground equipment in accordance with the terms and conditions described herein. And again, the purchase amount would be $1. I so move then that we approve this purchase agreement.
I'll support the motion.
Motion by Counselor May, seconded by Counselor Stibbits, to approve the playground equipment purchase agreement between the Ludington Area Schools and the City of Ludington as presented. Council, do you have any questions or comments?
I do have a question. When it comes time to decide where the equipment goes, that will, I'm assuming, come to committee first and then come to council, or will it just go there?
No. So what our hope is city staff are meeting on Thursday morning to discuss it. Kirk Hathemer's taking pictures of most of the equipment, and we'll make kind of a judgment there between Kirk, Joe, Russ Soper, and myself as to recommendations. Then we'll take that to committee. Unless the city council would like to choose where playground goes, I would just assume leave it with the Parks Committee for you all to agree or disagree with our recommendations from there. So it would be January that we would meet and finalize.
Perfect.
Yep.
And that'll come to Parks.
Yes.
Got it.
Any other comments, council? For the approval of the playground equipment purchased by the City of Ludington, Ludington Area Schools, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion's carried.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our next topic is for the council to approve a memorandum of understanding between the city and the Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council. Chief Kozel at the last committee meeting came and presented a problem he has and a means by which to solve it. In response, a memo again was prepared by the city manager to us describing this situation. I'll read. Over the last 2 decades, the City of Ludington has witnessed a trend internally and in other organizations where the recruitment and retention of police officers is becoming more difficult. In addition to that, we have had a number of retirements in the last 5 years, creating a large gulf between our senior and our junior officers, to a point where, under our current bargaining agreement, we only have one eligible officer who can test for the sergeant position. With this in mind, we have worked with the FOPLC to create this MOU, which will change the requirements, which would allow an officer to become eligible to test for the promotion. And basically the change, if you'll see under the new amendment, is to specify that a current police employee shall only have 4 total years of experience, not necessarily 4 with Ludington, but 4 overall, and then with 2 years of service with Ludington in order to be eligible to test for the rank of sergeant. Are there any questions?
Yes. Was I don't know, was the requirement before 4 years of service in Ludington?
It was 5 years actually
5
with the city of Ludington prior.
And how many positions are open?
We've had one for quite some time.
And so how many people would we now be eligible? If
We'll go from 1 to 4.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? I make a motion then that the council approve the amendment to the FOP collective bargaining agreement.
I'll second.
Motion by Counselor May, seconded by Counselor Winchesky to approve a memorandum of understanding to the Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council union contract as presented. Do you have any further questions or comments?
Just for council's understanding, the FOPLC approved this via email vote over the weekend.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion's carried.
Next up, I'm asking the city to approve a bid to repair the Loomis Street breakwater damage. The bid was received, in fact, it was the only bid I believe that we received from the Hardman Construction Company to finally fix the damaged pier at the end of Loomis Street. We received the one bid for $260,000 from Hardman. Our engineering company, Prine and Newhoff, has been advised, and as such, Mr. Foster has, with some experience with Hardman and with some background, has approved and chosen them as a favorable contractor to complete this work, and they're willing to do it as soon as possible. Mr. Foster has, in fact, I could let him explain where the $260,000 is going to come from.
The city had budgeted for this project at the beginning of the year. This is larger than that budgeted amount, just based on, I think if I remember informing council, when we first bid this project out, the number was actually $320,000. So at a $60,000 reduction, this is getting closer to realistic. But because it's over budget, that's the reason it came before council as it does. We would pull it from other areas within the launching ramp budget. We haven't been able to get to a lot of our projects this year, and so it shouldn't be too big of an issue for us to afford this project within that budget.
How long has it been damaged?
Since the first winter I worked here, so 2019. Yeah, 2.5, 3 years now.
Mitch, I think you've explained before, but would you do so again? Just explain what it is that they're actually going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not Italian, but I do use my hands. So if you think about the breakwall or the breakwater pier out there, you've got the Loomis Street boat launch. The breakwater pier, the last piece of it has kind of dropped. What happened is during those couple of years of high water, we had the one bad winter storm in 2019. It eroded some of the small and armor stone. We didn't even use armor stone. Some of the small and larger stone away from that, and essentially it all just dropped out. What the plan is essentially cut off that last drooping piece, weld on some railing so that you have an end to it. And then from there, we would replace the rest of that section with small, large, and armor stone pieces. And then at that point, they would reinforce the rest of the structure with the armor stone. So really, you're going to see very similar rock that we have out in front of the Maritime Heritage Park area now, that really big armor stone. You're going to see a lot of that popping up in that area so that we have a full connected break wall right there in that area. So the reason for the drop in price is because originally we were trying to repair the entire issue and try to keep that last piece. So it was a repouring of that concrete the whole 9 yards. The reason it's still so high is because they can't do it from land. They have to do it from the water. So they have to bring in a barge, which is more expensive than being able to take it with a crane or something like that. So that's why the bid is still so high. And to chat real quick on the bidding portion of this, it's unfortunate. We knew that we were only going to get one bid essentially going into this. We had heard from at least two other contractors that had expressed interest before, that they're too busy and they couldn't get to this work until the summertime. And even at that, they weren't sure if they could do it right. In most cases, and I believe in this case as well, we post these items on the Builders Exchange, which is essentially a resource for all builders and contractors in we use the Builders Exchange from Northwest Michigan and also Grand Rapids. So it's posted on all of their websites as well and shared with the members, which include, I think, almost every contractor in the state of Michigan.
Thank you, Mitch. Is there any other questions? I move then that we approve the contract awarded to Hardman Construction to repair the Loomis Street breakwater pier. Do I have a
Second.
Motion by Counselor May, seconded by Counselor Winchesky to approve the Loomis Street Breakwater Pier bid presented by Hardman Construction as presented. We have any further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Your Honor. Lastly, we are the Public Safety, Public Utilities Committee seeks to obtain the permission of the council to approve a change in our contract with Republic Services regarding our yard waste disposal. We've been discussing with a representative from Republic at a number of meetings and amongst ourselves. And after having the survey provided to the city and analyzing the responses, it appears that the element in that service, that of the individual bags, creates somewhat of a significant hindrance to Republic. And considering the minimal amount of people that are involved in it, we would like to postpone that service for the remainder of our contract with them in the upcoming year in hopes that it would gain us some leeway in negotiating for a lower fee. Republic has advised us that it creates quite a bit of extra time and effort to cruise the entire city to look for bags that aren't on record as being a constant client, you might say. They have to search for them, and that takes up a lot of their day, whereas they do know exactly who is subscribing for the yard waste containers, bins that are on the side of the street. So we just thought for the remainder of this year, it might be a good idea to postpone that, to advise the public, and then hopefully see if it allows us to negotiate for a lower rate should we stay with Republic. Any questions?
Yeah, based on the discussions we've had, I don't know why we're doing this now.
Can I stop right here, guys? We need a motion a second before we start
Oh,
discussing.
sorry. You got to do a
Oh,
motion.
I'm sorry. I thought I made the motion.
No.
I move that the council agree to approve a change in our services agreement with Republic to eliminate the yard waste bags.
Support. Counselor Truzano. Motion by Counselor May, second by Counselor Bolger to approve the removal of yard waste bags from use and pickup by Republic Services as presented. Counselor Truzano, would you like to lead the question?
Yeah. I'm not sure why we're doing this now. My understanding of the discussions we've had, and I understand the issue with the green bags. But that was all part of, seems to me that was all part of the discussions we were having before in terms of where our rates were going to go. It was going to be at a certain level with the green bags and then at a different level, a much lower level without them. But now we're removing them now, and I don't know how that gives us leverage in negotiations over the next year.
Republic has advised us that should we do that, they are more open to negotiation to say retain the once a week service, but for bins only. If they get a good look at what it would be like without the bags, and that they'd be willing to drop their requested increase.
And if I just,
So sorry.
if I just may follow up, what was the result of the surveys, just in terms of the cost and everything that people were
the survey went out to everyone that we knew was registered with Republic, mostly the bin people.
Right.
It didn't necessarily go out to all the bag people. There's no notice of them.
Bag people.
The people that use the,
Counselor, I have the answer for that. 142 people responded to this. I believe there's a need for supplemental yard waste bags in addition to my container, and I'm willing to pay per bag, $3. 17 responses, or 12% of the 142, or less than 1% of the population.
And what was the percentage of folks that were willing to go with, I think the proposed full rate was $145?
that was the largest,
That was including everything.
that was the largest responding population, and that ended up being 33% of the people approved of keeping the status quo and allowing for the increase to 148.
Okay.
That's on page 128 of your packet, if you wanted to like review it like after the fact. I'm just clarifying that it's there.
The second largest group agreed to a reduction in price if they went to biweekly pickup.
If I may, real quick, Councilor May, one of the items that was discussed in that meeting with Mr. Biolette was that if these are removed, you may see an uptick in the use of bins by those folks who weren't using them before, and that would potentially change the calculation as to how much they would have to charge or would be willing to charge for the service if the city decides to renegotiate for a contract extension. So that was part of that discussion as well.
And of course, it doesn't preclude anything from being altered for next year. Should we get a certain response in either direction, we could move on that and come back to it, whatever. We might get a lot more informational help in that regard, seeing as how that the survey couldn't address those people that only got yard waste bags.
So also in the discussion, one of the suggestions was to jump the bin price either to the 145 or some lesser amount. And, while there'll be sticker shock next or the year after maybe, but we're retaining the present price for the bins for the last year of the contract. So I think while we're making some concession to the company, the bulk of the people that they're picking up will get the benefit of another year at the current price.
So again, it's just to change our procedure, our service from Republic for the remainder of our contract this coming year. It's not to change the contract next year, so to speak.
So yard waste collection is all done for the calendar year of 2021.
Correct.
It picks back up in 2022 when the weather permits. So we're asking to do this change now for the 2022 collections services.
Correct, for
But
1 year.
When's their contract up?
The end of 2022. So
Okay.
this is the last year of the contract.
Okay, so if we make this change now, there would be no yard waste bags available for the last year of that contract.
Correct.
Even though it says in the contract and we're paying the cost for the bags.
No, because so essentially the yard waste is a pass through. The city we don't get
Okay.
charged additionally for that
For the
service.
service,
Right.
okay.
Yep.
All right.
If I have unused bags, will the city reimburse me?
20 cents on the bag.
That would be a decision that city council would have to direct staff to make available.
I'm serious.
I know that would be
Good
that would be a decision that council would have to make.
How many bags are we talking about?
I'm just saying, if a resident has has 10 bags and they're unused for whatever reason, can they bring them to the city and get $30? I mean, they bought it in good faith, part of the contract for next year, that it will be picked up next year. I think we should reimburse any unused bags. I don't think it's going to be a big,
There's also the possibility we could, speaking directly with Republic, they might honor them and still pick some up. If they could be advised, maybe, whatever.
okay.
Madam Clerk, how many bags do we have left in inventory?
I don't know, but I do know that the conversation at the front counter today, when they learned of the unused bags possibly not being picked up, is that customers will ask if they can get refunded for the unused bags that they have on hand. I don't know what the inventory is, though.
Okay.
I was not.
And that was money that they paid directly to the
Yes.
city.
Correct.
And then we paid Republic for those bags.
Correct.
Okay. So we already paid Republic for them.
Yes,
So really,
we have supply on hand.
we have supply on hand. So really, we would need Republic to reimburse us for the unused bags.
We could either request that of Republic, or I do think Counselor May's idea might work.
Okay.
They might be okay with, because as we talked about in committee, council could do nothing. You could leave services as is for the last year. Republic coming to council was at their request to try to see about flexibility going into that last year contract. So by saying city's not going to sell any more bags or, eliminate the bag program moving forward, that doesn't preclude us from saying, Republic, we've got, a handful of bags still left out there. Could those still be picked up? And then once they're gone, they're gone.
And could we ask the public to potentially call City Hall and say, hey, I have a bag, and then we can call Republic and put it on their route so they're not driving all over the city looking for the bags?
I'm sure we could put
It
that
can't
out there and
be
see if
that
that would,
many
yeah,
bags,
I'm,
right?
I'm guessing it's not a large number. I'd probably, Clerk Luskin and I can chat with the staff. I'm sure they know of, a handful of folks that probably bought a number of them at the end of this year, or during the year, that we could reach out to and say, hey, could you let us know when you're using them, and we'll just notify
Yeah.
Republic.
I mean, I don't
Or-
want to cause more work for someone, but
Or even give them
more convenient.
a deadline by like 1 month into the spring. Say you need to use them by then or whatever,
No, yeah. I don't want to stick up for Republic, but the whole reason they don't want the bags
Right.
is their driver driving every city street looking for one. If we say
Right.
you can still use your old bags, basically they have to do the entire service for the whole season. So.
Yeah.
Well, I vote for just eliminating the bags in 2022 and reimbursing anyone that has unused bags.
If we give a deadline, I'd like the idea of giving someone 30 days to use whatever bags they have now. In the springtime is when you're going to have a lot of
Yeah.
cleanup anyway. Can't imagine there would be a lot after that. Can we make this effective May 1 instead of April 1?
And advise the population accordingly that they,
Bags, use them up.
I don't see any reason why not.
And therefore, there's no return, there's no exchange anymore. You're now given, 30 days of April.
So we just changed the motion to include a time period starting later than what we thought,
Would we
basically.
have to vote on the current motion at hand and then make another motion?
He
We're
could,
just asking
he could,
procedure.
he could likely amend his motion,
Okay.
correct?
Okay,
As long as the second goes along with the amendment.
okay.
And what does council think would be a good, at the end of May?
Or May 1st instead of April
Give them
1st.
30 days or 60 days.
Do it at the end of May. Give it 60
Yeah.
days.
All right, let's say, May has what, 30? May 30th?
Wait, do we want to give them 30 days or 60 days to use the bags? 60? And that would be June 1st then, correct?
When do they start? I forget, Mish. You remember when they said they start? First of
I
April?
would say May 30th, as it's a Monday. So it would be the last pickup day.
Except that's Memorial Day.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Shoot. Those holidays
June
sneak up on you.
1st.
Yeah, June 1st then.
All right, I hereby move that we approve a change in our Republic Services Agreement to eliminate the yard waste bag pickup by Republic after June 1st. Was that?
And I would amend my second to allow that.
We have a motion by Counselor May, seconded by Counselor Bulger to approve the removal of yard waste bags from use and pickup by Republic Services effective June 1, 2022, as amended. We have any further input?
I don't want to complicate things, but do we have to have in that we're not selling them anymore, or you can
Yes.
just be directed not to sell
We, between Clerk Luskin and I, we will be sure to make that those bags stay hidden.
And then when people come in for bags, you should promote that they can buy a bin for $65 a year.
Absolutely.
Any other comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Your Honor, that's it. Thank you.
I think 19 action items make us a little punch happy up here. Building and license, long-range planning. Counselor Terzano.
them. I have no report, but one action item, and it's adopt ordinance 466-21 Waterfront Maritime District. This district is designed to provide a bridge between established business areas and waterfront areas. The district already allows for artisan shops as a special land use, and this change will eliminate that language and add retail, inclusive of artisan shops, as a permitted principal use, and I so move.
I'll support the motion.
Motion by Counselor Terzano, seconded by Counselor Stibbs to adopt ordinance 466-21, approving city code zoning of waterfront maritime districts 1 and 2, allowing retail as a permitted principal use as presented. Do we have any questions or comments? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Stibbits?
Yes.
Counselor May?
Yes.
Counselor Winchevsky?
Yes.
Counselor Bolger?
Yes,
Counselor Kane?
Aye.
Counselor Terzano?
Aye,
6 ayes, 1 absent.
This motion carries.
and that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cemetery, Parks, and Recreation, Counselor Stibbits.
Thank you. We have nothing to report and no action items, but we do have a meeting tomorrow at 1:30. And I'm all set.
Thank you. Communication from city officials, city council, anything you want to bring forward at this time?
Mayor Miller, I do have one thing to talk about and bring up for next year. Do we want to do coffee with the counselors again? And so think about that. Jackie Steckel would like to get a schedule ready if we're interested in doing that again. And she suggested if we're interested that we go the first or the third Thursday, because if we can go the fourth, the last one, it interferes with Thanksgiving and Christmas. So she said if we change to first or third. Personally, I enjoy the coffee with the counselors. It gives me a chance to talk one-on-one with people a little bit more, and I've really enjoyed it. I have not checked with Bookmark, but they've been real receptive to allow us to go there for that. We would keep the time the same, 12 o'clock one month and 5:30 the next month. So discussion, should we do this again? What do you guys think? Coffee with the counselors?
Kathy, was this last year the first year we've done that?
Oh, no.
No?
We've probably done it for 4 years, 5
Yes.
years, yeah.
Was there any difference in the attendance this year from previous?
Well, yeah, and I don't think we did it last year. No, I don't think we did it last year because of COVID. Yes, this year, I think the attendance was a little less. Most people wore masks and came, but we usually got, I would say, 6, 8, sometimes a big day would be 12 people that would come. So usually people come when they want to talk to you personally about something that it's hard to come here and talk in front of everybody in this formal setting, or people that have real personal concerns and questions about the city. So what do you guys think?
I think we should continue it. It's just, as John likes to say, another arrow in the quiver for us being out there in front of the public. So just another way, and we make an effort.
And I think Jackie schedules 2 of us at a time. So it's not that it's an overburden for anyone to be there every month. Any other comments? First Thursday or third Thursday, does anyone have a preference?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, I go first then.
Yep.
I'll tell Jackie to put out a schedule for first Thursday, and we'll start in January then.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. City manager report?
Just a few items to touch on briefly. First one, if you haven't had the chance, the mayor and I have been on WLDN and WMOM here recently, and we will continue to do that. I think it's been really helpful. We get some good comments. People will text the mayor and, appreciate that. We'll see it on Facebook when it's on WMOM. So I think it really helps, inform people in a different medium. The first week of COVID testing at Harbor
Is
View.
that, I'm sorry, is that just on the mornings of council meetings?
No, so we are doing mornings of council meetings on WMOM, and then WLDN, the mayor is on every Tuesday for, 10, 15 minutes, and then I'm there probably once a month, with more of a deep dive onto something specific.
Okay.
So, first week of COVID testing over at Harborview went well. We had, I think we were over 125 folks tested in the 3 days. Just right around the 20 persons tested positive during that time period. But we seem to have gotten in a pretty good rhythm and a structure over there. The big issue that we had to deal with was where they had to put their trash because we don't have a dumpster over there during the wintertime. So they're taking it off site. But it seemed to be working fairly well. Let's see here. Just touching on the public comment at the beginning, underground utilities in Ludington in particular, it isn't necessarily the high water table that prevents us from doing that. I think you'll see with a lot of our projects, we try to, we do all of our infrastructure is underground. The issue that you end up having is the cost to put electric underground. It's incredible. If I remember right back to the conversation, previous discussion on the alleys behind the avenue, it was somewhere in the range of $75,000 a block to put utilities underground. And that was just consumers' discussion. That wasn't Frontier or Charter or anybody else. So it's a fairly large expenditure, but it's definitely not anything that we can't have those conversations about for sure. And then the last item of note is on your, or at your spots, I put a list of goals that I had written up. I know that as part of the city manager evaluation process, goals and collective goals will be kind of part of that discussion. Please take a look at this. We can discuss it in future meetings, but I did write that together for all of you so that you could review it. But unless there are additional questions, comments, or concerns, that is all I have for this evening.
What is CIP?
The capital improvement plan.
Any other questions for the city manager?
Your Honor, I would like to compliment you and the manager. I had a friend of mine today tell me that he listened to your excellent, entertaining, and informative broadcast today and was very, very impressed. And I'd also just like to say, Mitch, whoever's responsible, it's nice to see the fire down at the lit furnace, so to speak, down at Legacy Plaza going. It's, makes sense, especially in the winter, but it's really nice.
Yeah, we Heather Tykowski and Jen Tooman took a lot of pride in making sure that was a workable solution down there. Originally, when that was first installed, the engineer at the time made a judgment call to install an app-based system. Well, there were only like 3 licenses available, so only 3 people could have access to the app to turn on the fireplace, and it would only be on for 20 minutes at a time. So it really had to keep an eye on it. So now it's a simple dial that individuals can turn on, and it stays on for a period of time. So I would agree. I was there a couple weekends ago when we had one of our snow events, and it was really nice to stand right there and not feel cold.
It's a good time of year to have a fire.
Mm-hmm. That's all I have this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you. If I can, Council, one last thing on the city manager goals. I will ask each of you to present to me, and I will take that collection of goals to the finance committee when we sit down with the city manager to determine specific goals. I'd like input from each one of you. And if you would, email 3 to 5 goals for the city manager you'd like to see enacted and agreed upon, negotiated with the city manager, and the finance committee, or excuse me, the personnel committee will hone down that large number into a workable number. And for the city manager, I think that would be for the course of a year, anywhere from 5 to 8 significant goals. So if you would, in the next week or so, send me what you would think your goals for the city manager would be, and that they all fit within the specific category and reasonable. Moving on, I have.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mitch, can you elaborate on identify infill development opportunities?
Yeah, so the infill is when you see properties that are not as utilized as they could be. So if you have vacant lots within cities, that's the type of infill that is referred to. In most cities like us that are surrounded by a township or an area that you're not necessarily going to expand into, infill development is the idea of adding a house on a vacant lot that's just sitting there underutilized. Or commercial property or whatever it may be that fits into that area.
All right, moving through action items, the adoption of resolutions recognizing Fred Hackert and Ron Jabraki have already taken place, and thank you very much again for that time. I want to move to make the appointment as is required every year. Annual appointment of the city attorney is designated in section 3.5 of the city charter as responsibility of the mayor. Also, as per the city charter, section 10.5, the city attorney serves at the pleasure of the majority of the city council. Whereas the residents of the city of Ludington benefit greatly from having good legal counsel, let it be resolved that I, Steve Miller, Mayor of the city of Ludington, hereby recommend that the law firm of Olson, Bisdock, and Howard, PC, be appointed for civil counsel for the calendar year 2022, and I seek motion.
So
That
moved.
motion.
I'll second.
Yep. Motion by Counselor Stibbits, second by Counselor Terzano to approve the resolution appointing the firm of Olson, Bisdock, and Howard, PC, to serve as civil counsel for 2022 as presented. Council, do we have any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. I want to thank each of you for getting back with me regarding input on that matter. The city of Ludington also has historically contracted with the Mason County for the services of the county's prosecuting attorney for matters pertaining to the prosecution of violations of certain city ordinances and codes. Therefore, let it be resolved that I, Steve Miller, Mayor of the city of Ludington, hereby recommend that Mason County Prosecutor's Office be appointed counsel for criminal matters for the calendar year 2022. I seek motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Bulger, seconded by Counselor Winchesky to approve the resolution appointing Mason County Prosecutor's Office to serve as counsel for criminal matters for the calendar year of 2022 as presented. Council, do we have any questions or comments?
Yes. Is there an alternative to the county prosecutor?
Chief,
I'm just curious.
I mean, we could.
You could technically hire
Yeah.
a firm to represent the city in
Yeah.
these enforcement of these city ordinances.
Yeah, from a realistic standpoint, it just makes a lot of sense to have the county prosecutor handle it. The one thing I will clarify on this one is that we have had a number of conversations revolving around zoning ordinances
Yes.
and the enforcement thereof, and we're working with Ross, his law office, and Mr. Alvarado's office to figure out how they can essentially run with that process moving forward. As it was made fairly clear to us, I think, that the county prosecutor doesn't necessarily like dealing with zoning ordinances.
And we obviously pay them to represent us.
Correct.
Is that just a retainer, whether we use them or not, or?
The county prosecutor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any further questions or comments?
Having served in that role as an assistant prosecutor and handling the city's ordinance prosecution, it was really effective when I was doing both jobs. It got to be more of a problem when I was no longer in the prosecutor's office. So I find it to be very efficient. In a sense, the police have one-stop shopping when they need some help on matters, especially emergencies. So
Any further comment? This motion is to approve the resolution appointing Mason County Prosecutor's Office to serve as counsel for criminal matters for the calendar year of 2022, as has been presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Council, in your package, you'll find those names put forth as mayoral appointments to the city boards, authorities, councils, and commissions for the years 2022 and beyond, and I ask council for a motion to approve these mayoral appointments as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Terzano, seconded by Councilor Nemay, to approve the mayoral appointments to official board positions for the years 2022 and beyond as presented. Council, we have any questions or comments?
I see there is a change here on the police pension board. Just wanted to highlight that, I guess. It looks like Austin Morris was elected by the police department,
Mhm.
right?
That's correct.
Instead of Mike.
He replaces Mike Haveman, who's currently on the main list that you received.
Perfect.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Also in your package, you'll find my recommendation for reappointments to the council's standing committees for 2022. I put forth these reappointments, maintaining current membership to these committees. Council, I seek a motion and support for these reappointments.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilor Stibbits, seconded by Councilor May, to approve the appointment of members of the 2022 City Council Standing Committees as presented. All those, any questions or concerns?
In your infinite wisdom, why just reappointments and not reshuffling?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'll be glad to share just a part of that infinity of knowledge. 1 year is not necessarily enough for a lot of the actions that come through. And you have the possibility of shuffling these every single year. In my going into will be the 4th year, I found it most advantageous to maintain at least a 2-year commitment in those committees, if possible, just for the experience alone. And next year, should I be in this position again to make these appointments, that would be a change then.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, I'd like to say that you don't want to rob anyone of the enjoyment of being a committee chair either. That 1 year is pretty short.
Let me use that as my second example. As we've all seen the evolution of Councilor May here on the dais. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We have a motion to approve and a second to approve the appointment of these city council standing committees. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, council. Last action item before us is the establishment of city council regular meeting dates for 2022. The motion sets the second and fourth Monday of each month as scheduled regular meetings, with the exception of December where the calendar conflicts. And it will necessitate meeting on the first and third Mondays. Council, I seek a motion to establish city council regular meetings dates for 2022 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll support.
Motion by Councilor Winchesky, seconded by Councilor Stibbits to establish City Council regular meeting dates for 2021 as presented. Any questions? All
22.
20, oh, it says 21 right there, sorry, 2022. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, council. I'm going to open the floor for public comment. Anyone wishing to address council, step to the lectern and proceed after stating your name and address. Please speak directly into the microphone and address all comments to this chair. Each speaker will be allotted 2 minutes. The floor is open.
Tom Rada, Dowland Street. With the council's vote tonight to have their meeting times for 2022, match those of the Scottville City Commission, you have done me a great favor. My focus over the last year on Langton issues have been diluted quite a bit by my chronicling of the corruption that's a big part of Scottville politics. Surface and embedded rot, I noted after attending a few of their commission meetings. Since I will choose to attend Langton meetings over Scottville's, I need only observe and report the way this city hall makes sausage, rather than favorably compare their processing over the unhealthy way Scottville does theirs. Tonight, the council passed a simple resolution to retain and appoint Olson, Bizdock, and Howard PC as city civil counsel for 2022, along with hiring the county prosecuting office as city criminal attorney. One lawyer they didn't rehire through resolution for 2022 is Carlos Alvarado. Alvarado has provided execrable service as the city's primary FOIA coordinator in 2021, denying the dissemination of public records properly redacted. Furthermore, as a Scottville city attorney, he has led them to a host of liability issues due in major part to his inept legal counseling he has provided for them. I appreciate this council letting his endorsement lapse at the end of this year and look forward to a competent FOIA coordinator taking this place. Thank you.
Any further public comment? If not, I'll close the floor to public comment and move on to miscellaneous business. Council, do you have anything further to add before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
I've got one good thing, if I can put that in.
Certainly.
Tomorrow marks the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. Enjoy this short day and Merry Christmas to all.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may, just a reminder that those that are interested in running for a charter commissioner seat
Stop.
the ability to take petitions out up until January 18th at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, council?
Merry Christmas also to everybody.
Lastly, you kind of beat the path for me. I wanted to thank Councilor Luskin, City Attorney Hammersley, City Manager Foster, and every Police Chief Kozel, and every member of the city staff that supports the City Council and gives us the direction that we can move the city forward as conveniently and as properly as we have. Thank you, each one of you on council, for your commitment and your time. Your efforts are certainly not missed by those of us who pay close attention. And I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Look forward to meeting again in January. If there's no further comments, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Counselor Kane, seconded by Counselor Winchesky to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. And appreciate your attendance and participation. This meeting is adjourned. See you next year.